Well, good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. We go out on Facebook, we go out on Twitter, we also go out on YouTube. If you'd like to make any comments, please do so, send them in, and Keith and I will do our best to answer them for you. So, quite a bit happened over the last weekend, so we get right into the meat of it, as it were. Uh, Keith has been talking a lot about Howard Webb coming in as a new brush and trying to sweep clean, and with particular emphasis on the time wasting, particularly by goalkeepers, but also the players as well, the amount of time it takes them to get the ball into play, that sort of thing, and the trying to improve the amount of time of the 90 minutes actual playing time to be played, and that doesn't appear to be happening. Keith, we also have yellow cards with dissent and time wasting, but we'll come back to those. Let's get into this one. You said the average time for a game. Remember, folks out there, 90 minutes is the actual playing time plus any time lost. But of the 90 minutes, and Keith picked this up very well, the average playing time was 58 minutes and 54 seconds. I suppose it's an improvement, Keith, from 53, 54 minutes, but it's not what was intended and what was hoped would happen.
No, what we are seeing now is, and we talked about it last week, 100-minute games. We're actually seeing referees at last allowing for the appropriate lost time. That's stoppage time. I did notice in one game there was still a water break in the game at Sheffield United. So referees have been given a very clear mandate by Howard Webb, and they've got to follow it through. It's been laid down that they've got to take a more proactive approach with regard to stoppages, and in particular, where a player shows dissent, then in that situation, caution. And as a result, what we are seeing is I think the average now is getting from an average last season of around about 3 yellow cards per game. We're up to close to 5 yellow cards per game. And we've also seen 9 red cards season to date, which is a high number in the English Premier League. 5 yellow cards is high, but it's comparable to what we see in Italy, Germany, and Spain, which is around about that same average of 5. So the impact of the charter and the agreement on time wasting is impacting on the game. And I think putting a lot of pressure on referees. We've gone from night and day, a sort of Mike Riley approach, come see, come saw, and the standard of refereeing ebbing away. And we've got Howard coming in saying, I must do something. My fear is that in change management, putting my business hat on, all the sort of lectures I've been to are about taking manageable bites, not huge steps. So this change is night and day that he's trying to impose, and it's putting his referees under a lot of pressure.
Do you think it's working though, Keith? I mean, from an average, again, 54 minutes or whatever per game to 58. No. I mean, I know it's early in the season, but is it really working?
No. And I think that, frankly, the only way sounds a little bit, that I'm pushing this as a modern thing. I've been pushing it for 10 years, that we should have an independent timekeeper and a countdown clock.
But what will happen then, Keith, just like rugby?
Yes.
I mean, you might have a 200-minute game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing here, Errol, is to try to get discipline back into the game. Players and managers to understand that at the elite level, it is entertainment, and they've got to deliver a better product. And that better product is actually players getting on with the game rather than disputing decisions or finding any available excuse to go to ground.
But then isn't it the referee's fault that they're not enforcing it?
Well, it's been, there's no question that the referees have been part to blame, and not gripping it in the past. But, we had Mike Riley saying he wanted his referees to have the lighter touch. So what they did was come away from it. And this country's not alone. We've still got problems on actual playing time in other countries, and I think
Absolutely.
that somehow we've got to get to a point where we can trust that the time that is being added on is the correct amount of added time. And the only way I think you can do it is to say to players, look at the stadium clock and have a massive clock on the screen that says it's stopped. So when you start and get up, son, and want to play football rather than try and come me with an injury, maybe you'll get on with it. So I think it is. I think we've inherited it through a slow decline.
Would you agree that there is a win at all costs attitude out there? And if you have to cheat and lie and dive and roll around, then so be it. And if you say yes, well then how do you combat that?
Well, I think that first of all, you have to get all the stakeholders in the game to recognise that they have to deliver a product that's acceptable to the marketplace.
Isn't that what Howard did at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, that's what Howard is trying to do. He spoke to everybody, but they only listen to and take on board what they want to hear.
Of course.
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, this is why I think you've got to do it in small steps, and you've got to get every referee on side to understand how they're going to enforce it, and then to recognise that there's going to be pressures, and those pressures are clearly seen. The referees have not enforced the laws of the game in the past. Timekeeping is one element of it, and I think that we've got a lot of things coming together all at once.
Yeah, you also mentioned that yellow cards this year, 19 so far for time wasting, well, last year there was only 10. So that's double, almost double.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, Howard got the agreement of the League Managers Association, of the PFA, and the leagues, and they agreed to a charter that they would try to deliver more actual playing time. Now, this is their response to that. I don't think it's the answer, but I've been saying that for some time, that it needs an independent timekeeper at the very least. Now, what we've got to do is we've got to be hard. In the first 3 weeks, they've been pretty good at enforcing elements of time wasting, but we've still not seen a 6-second application with a goalkeeper. We've still not seen that. We've seen, in fairness, I witnessed the referee actually warn a goalkeeper and then almost immediately afterwards caution him with a yellow card for time wasting very early on in the game. So there is a recognition now that time wasting takes place from minute one, and that referees have been charged to do something. Well, early days, they've got to change the trend.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting across you. Won't they, keepers, do it? Because keepers don't get booked that often. I don't think I've ever seen a goalkeeper miss a game on suspension for 5 yellow cards.
No.
So they'll take one for the team, and if he can delay it another 10 seconds and it counts down the clock, so be it. So he'll take one for the team, just like some of the players will take one by fouling, whatever.
But clubs on that, Errol, just as a point, I mean, the facts are that the impact of the yellow cards will start to bite in a few weeks' time at an earlier point in the season than norm, because when those 5 yellow cards kick in and suspensions start to come, that's when managers will suddenly say, please keep quiet and let the referee get on with his job, because I want you playing rather than being suspended. You
think they will, Keith? I mean, the winning mentality is still there.
Look, I mean, it's win at all costs. Look, the money in the professional game at the elite level in England is huge. And therefore we have to take that into account, that, we see managers coming under, 5 losses. I think there's one manager gone today, lower down, after 5 losses in the opening games of the season. He's gone. Yeah. And I think this is the pressure that managers face. This whole pressure of, it's a game where they've got to win.
There was another interesting statistic that you brought up, that For dissent, last year there were 3 yellow cards at this stage. This year there's 23.
Yeah, and I think, well, I think this is the right course of action. We might not like it.
No, I 100% agree with you.
But referees, their if you like, stature and standing in the game was being eroded by players questioning every decision. Look, let us talk about the Liverpool defender yesterday who was sent off for denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, Van Dijk. I thought this was a very good decision by the referee because it was a close call, but you could see in the replays that the player had actually played. Van Dijk had almost kicked his opponent, got the foot first. The ball was then deflected off, but in effect it was a clear foul. You look at the position of the defenders. You know that player has the probability to control the ball and have a shot on goal. Therefore, a terrific decision. Then what followed was this pressure that comes when VAR is doing a check to actually determine that the referee's got the decision right. And in that period, you saw John Brooks having to control the players and Van Dijk getting somewhat frustrated and out of control, to the extent that when the red card was confirmed, then he used some expletives towards the fourth official going off. So the only way that the FA is going to deal with this is to actually increase the punishment. They've signed up, the FA, to this charter, which is very clear on dissent. So here is a situation where they've now got to back it up. The FA have got to back up the punishment that is dished out to Van Dijk. I know Liverpool players don't like it, but that's the very nature. But in another game, in West Ham's game, there was a player sent off, a West Ham player, for denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. And I thought the referee was wrong on that, because what I saw of that particular incident, the probability of the player controlling the ball heading pretty quickly to a goalkeeper standing by, a defender to the left of him, I think it was less clear that player would have had the opportunity to have a shot on goal. And this is how difficult it is for referees, and how important it is for the VAR to actually come in and make reference to the call. And I know a lot of young referees listening to this program, so I'm going to give them a bit of advice. And this is how I used to operate denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. When I saw the incident and a foul had taken place, I would automatically take away the player that's committed the offence. In the build-up, I would take him out of my thinking and then determine, would the player have a shot on goal? And that's how I determined the red card. Obviously, now the offence is outside the box, he gets a red. If that player was making a deliberate play to play the ball, then he might have got a yellow, but he didn't. He got
and that's the distinction, because I've had a couple of people asking me about that. When is it yellow and when is it red? So in simple terms, it's if the defender attempts to play the ball, it's a yellow card. If
it's inside the penalty area.
Yeah.
If a foul is committed, and it doesn't matter whether he's playing the ball or not, if he commits a foul outside the penalty area and he denies an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, that is a red card.
Okay, so when is it a yellow card?
Same for the goalkeeper.
When is the yellow card outside the
area? It's always a red. Inside the area, you're making a secondary judgment, because triple jeopardy, penalty kick. You're actually determining, is the player making a genuine attempt to play the ball? Obviously, if that defender inside the box pushes his opponent or trips his opponent, it's red. If he actually attempts to play the ball, then it goes to yellow.
Yeah, that's. I hope you people listening, watching, have got all that now. So that's very clear. The yellow card for Trent Alexander for when he was sent packing off the field, sliding, and then just picked up the ball. Is that not bordering on the silly? Because he didn't throw it away; he actually threw it onto the field.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think Trent Alexander was fouled.
Yes,
and I was very disappointed that the assistant referee didn't come in and flag. You know, this weekend I saw 2 excellent offside decisions by assistant referees. And you know, in England we've got some absolutely top class assistant referees, but I don't think we're using them in the way that we used to use them. I think they're, since the introduction of VAR, they seem to be 2 or 3 steps behind in relation to their involvement. But that's just an observation at this stage. Knowing how well we worked, and there was a guy called Paul Roger, he managed the assistant referees for me in England. He was brilliant at his job. He actually got, you know, different training methods that he introduced, which are now used in other parts of the world. And we encourage them to be referees. They're assistant referees. We encourage them. I think since VAR, there's a difficulty of when to come in and when not to come in. And of course, they've got this massive concentration task to delay the flag, and I think that makes life very difficult for them. Yeah. But Trent Alexander, you know, I think he just threw the ball back in frustration at having been fouled and a foul not being given. The problem the referees have got is that they've been asked to lay down the law.
That's it now, Keith. Are they hanging their hat on it now? Saying that's dissent, you kicked the ball away, you threw the ball away, and where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Are the referees hanging their hat on it and trying to curry favour, if you like, with Howard Webb to show that they're doing their job?
Look, I think they're fully aware that Howard is a pretty tough character. If they don't apply what he expects them to apply, then they'll not get appointments. He's already shown that, hasn't he, in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, where a referee didn't perform, then in that, or VAR didn't perform, Hooper and some others, they didn't get a appointment the following week. So I think he's laid the law down. He wants consistency. The competition has asked for consistency. You know, it's not just the stimulus of Howard Webb that's brought these changes in. It's the Premier League saying, look, we want more playing time and we want a better image. And the FA saying we must have a better image, we must have better behaviour because we're losing too many referees at grassroots level. So I applaud what's going off. My only concern is, you know, the art of refereeing to some degree is to have a little bit of common sense. And I think that refereeing is an art and not a science. And therefore, I think we're taking away some of, if you like, that flair that we see in, you know, you watch Jack Grealish play football. It's wonderful to watch because the ball sticks at his feet. It's almost like watching Stanley Matthews and George Best. And in that sense, we know that is part of the game, and we need those players protected, but we also need them time to play on the ball. And I just think that a bit of common sense would help. But at this moment in time, we're early into the season. The regulations have been laid down, and they've got to actually apply them.
Yeah, we used to say common sense was the 18th law. Remember that?
Well, I think at this moment in time, you know, the difficulty is that they've got to arrest back control. They've got to show that they're in charge, and players have eventually got to get the message. And I suspect that everybody knows that there's a bit of pain to go through. There's one incident that I don't want to overlook, because in the Sheffield United Manchester City game, a goal was scored by Manchester City with a player clearly looking offside. And
who was the goal for now, Keith?
It was Manchester City scored from a Yeah, I can't remember, but his play, he was in an offside. He looked as though he was in an offside position, but there was a great spot by the assistant referee because Kyle Walker had gone off the field of play.
Deliberately.
Well, he'd gone off the field of play, and he was off the field of play when a Sheffield United defender had gone off the field of play when the play was the ball went in. The outcome is, and I might be mixing the goals up, but what I wanted to get over was the fact that if a player steps off the field of play in an attempt to play a player offside, that's first of all a cautionable offence, but he is regarded as being on the goal line, hence the goal being allowed. And I just sort of wanted to get that over because it's a law that it rarely comes into effect.
Yeah.
And I must admit, when I first saw it, I've gone offside. And then when I saw the replay, I've gone, what a great decision. That the defender was off the field of play and they picked it up.
I don't think that's ever happened to me in my refereeing career.
No, certainly not in mine.
To circumvent the offside. Yeah. That's a very good. Did we cover the Man United Forest game? What was the incident in that game?
I'm trying to remember.
What was that about? I can't remember. I wrote it.
I've got it in my notes. I'm sorry.
Not to worry. We'll come back to that. Keith, the incident, maybe you just take us through from the beginning, the Mike Dean comments.
Well, this is quite appalling. In an interview, he said that in a game involving Chelsea, with I think the score at 2-2, in that particular game, I remember very clearly a player with long hair, his hair being pulled quite violently.
Oh, Cucurella, something like that. Yeah,
yes. Yeah. So it was a clear red card. There's no question. And I said it at the time. Nothing happened. Anthony Taylor was the referee. The VAR was Mike Dean. And I think we were all a bit bemused by the fact that this player hadn't been sent off. It impacted the result. And of course, the player got off with an act of violent conduct. And last week, Mike Dean announced in an interview that, yes, he saw the offence. Yes, he recognised what the offence was. And because it was his mate, and his mate was having a tough time in the middle, he decided not to intervene. I mean, the impact of that statement has thrown into refereeing in England questions about the integrity. I've been absolutely inundated with fans because I know, for one, having put in a lot of systems, that the integrity of our match officials is without question until this has happened and this has been stated. So I did an interview on television last night I do Mark Sager's show on a Sunday evening. And I did it with Mark Elsie, and we were both shocked that, and we're now looking for the Football Association, the PGMOL, to investigate. I don't think they can allow this bland throwaway comment by Mike Dean, who's no longer employed by the FA and no longer employed by the PGMOL. He's a pundit for Sky Television, and he's also an author or journalist for the Daily Mail now. So I think that football's got to just take a look at this and say, what has he said? And look at it very carefully.
He was actually not doing Anthony Taylor a favour.
Oh, absolutely.
Do him a favour and say it's red card, and that would have sorted that problem out. But in fact, he was actually landing him in it. Absolutely,
100%. And landing his colleagues in it, you know.
Yeah. He would have been better off if he felt it was or wasn't, just keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
And not that we're necessarily condoning that either, but to make a statement like that, he thought he was having a tough time. But I mean, how would he have increased a tougher time than he was already having? He would have done him a favor.
Well,
I remember it now. It was the correct decision. This guy has very big, like afro hair.
Yeah.
I remember the guy pulling his hair, which was his violent conduct.
Yeah. The comment about Manchester United and Nottingham Forest was Nottingham Forest had a player sent off, Joe Worrell, for the denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. It was in that area and probably not West Ham. I believed in that situation that the law on denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity had not been applied, fulfilled, on the basis that I think there was, in this situation, I don't think there was the opportunity for the forward to actually control the ball and have a shot on goal. So I think that one, if they do go to appeal, although you never know who the panel is and their knowledge on the laws of the game.
Exactly.
But I would suspect that if they did know the laws of the game, that player would in fact be getting off.
Succeed, yeah. That's right. There was an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Look, we're only 3 weeks into the season. Time hasn't improved as far as playing time is concerned. Yellow cards are increasing
massive
by the day, by the dozen, as it were.
Yeah.
But yet the simple things like players getting touched and falling over, and I can't remember, so I won't mention a name, but a well-known ex-player said on television that, if a player is touched, he has a right to go down. What does that mean? He has a right to go down. And you know what's even worse, Keith, is that the referees are giving it. They can clearly see the guy got the slightest touch. Why are they giving free kicks for that? Would they give a penalty for that? Not a chance. Yeah. Players are pulling and dragging each other in the penalty area. My answer to that would be it's either a penalty kick to the attacker or it's a free kick to the defender. One or the other. Yeah. Not going in, talking to players who are not listening anyway, because as soon as you retreat as a referee, they're at it again. Yeah. So you're wasting your time. So the only way is words.
You know, on my social media feed, I get lots of ideas and suggestions from readers. And one of them I thought was pretty good. And that was at the setting up of a corner kick, in the goal area, attackers would not be allowed in the goal area.
Or could they
try to reduce the amount of holding and pulling and blocking of the goalkeeper prior to the kick being taken? There was just an observation. I thought, that's got a bit of legs.
What about that there must be a meter between attackers and defenders until the ball is kicked?
Well, I think that's another good idea. I mean, I do think that the lawmakers should be studying these types of things and looking at ways of actually making life more difficult, more easier for referees. I mean, they've got it rough, I think, referees. I think handball is very difficult. I think players' attitudes now, playing for large amounts of money, they've got the upper hand in that sense. They're trying to win that control back. We've got to have patience as far as Howard Webb's concerned. My concern is that I think had I gone in, knowing what I know, I would have got rid of a few of the current management squad, because I think that it's there where the problem lies. I think the coaching and education of players, of referees, is so important. And it's always ongoing, isn't it? And I think, I mean, I watched a Northern Premier League game on Saturday, Stocksbridge Park Steels versus Ashington. And sadly, I don't know the name of the referee, but he was outstanding. He was outstanding. I sat there And I got a tap on the shoulder from behind. And he goes, I know you are, you don't know who I am, but I just want you to know, as a spectator, I think this referee's quite brilliant. And I turned and said, I stood up and said to him, I agree 100%. The guy was just on the game. His respect for the players and the players' respect for him were terrific. It was very low-key. There was no showmanship. The signals were clear. The whistle was brilliant. And you sit back and you go, you know, I wasn't going to a game on Saturday. I just went there. You know, this is the home of Jamie Vardy in the past. And it was just, it was a very good game. Ashington, a very good side, as Stockbridge Park Steels are. But I thought the referee was terrific. And I'm trying to find his name out at the moment, Errol.
Isn't it time to go out into the highways and byways and look at these? There's some brilliant young men out there who are very good.
Yeah, and they've got to be given the chance.
They can't be any worse, Keith, than what's there and has been there in the past. Surely to goodness, you know.
I think at the end of the day, there's some people who are not for changing, and I think that what we've got to have is we've got to have people who are intelligent, who absorb information and respond to it, and are alert. And I think that this, I don't know whether making these referees professional has put too much baggage, and they're worried about the mortgage, you know, more, and therefore worry about certain things. But I just feel that at the moment, Howard's battling on his own, and his team around him, I think there's a lot of administrators, and I think they need to go. I think he needs to get face to face and hands on with the referees, and then make the tough decisions as to who he's going to use, who he's not going to use. As
always, Keith, thank you very, very much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
You, the people out there, for watching. Please keep your comments coming in. We'll do it all again next Monday, please God. Until then, good night and God bless.
Good night.